he killed N'Zoth was a dream. Everybody was actually destroyed and killed by N'Zoth, just like the prophecy in Sylvanas said was going to happen in the end of the Fourth War. Everybody's fucking dead. The jailer does it. He snaps his fingers, right? And he completely re-originates the universe, deletes N'Zoth, remakes our lives, fucking changes all of Azeroth, and completely fucking remakes the entire universe. And he wins. And the next story is us getting Sargeras, because he's the only thing in the whole universe that could kill the jailer, right? Us convincing Sargeras to go back and undo it.
The fun's about to start.
Now that would be a cool ending. That is, in my opinion, that's, and then also like all endgame. Look, they already did Infinity War. Why can't I do endgame? Okay, like come on. So then also like with Sylvanas, I think I've said this before, right? What is the best literary ending for Sylvanas? Was the best story ending for Sylvanas? In my opinion, the best story ending for Sylvanas is for Sylvanas to be the new Lich King. This was always teased throughout the course of World of Warcraft, and I think that with Sylvanas being the Lich King, she effectively, and here's why, right, is that Sylvanas wants eternal life, and the Lich King imprisons her in eternal life, but she is imprisoned in eternal life, and she becomes a servant, the one thing that she did not want to do. So it's basically the it's like the poetic ending of the villain getting exactly what they want in the worst way possible. Right? It's poetic justice, exactly. That is, in my opinion, what the best ending for Sylvanas is. I don't think they should kill Sylvanas. I think that if they do kill Sylvanas, it should be her sacrificing herself for her sisters, because that's the only thing that would even partially redeem her character. And I think that would be good. But the split soul thing, I think, is a plot device, and it should have never happened. I think that the split soul thing is honestly just them being afraid of retconning something that happened 5 years ago. It was ridiculous. 924 is Sylvanas.
Will face a consular. This is similar to a being like Algalon, but the jailer's gotten to it and has infused his domination magic into the consular. Before we
Is that her, I'm assuming?
Get to the jailer, however, we need to get...
I really don't think that's Sylvanas, man. Because what's the... I don't see the thing on her eye. Yeah, man, I really don't think that's Sylvanas. It's Kalia? No, it's a placeholder, maybe? Yeah, that could be it. That could definitely be it. But, yeah, maybe, I don't know. Like, I mean, she looks hot, so, I mean, that's, I'm happy, right? But, like, overall, Wowhead is close-up pick. I'll look at it in a bit. But, yeah, overall, I mean, I think we pretty much looked at everything. I mean, that's about all that there is to say. She was given her soul back. Yeah, but that doesn't really change her physical body. I don't know. I mean, that doesn't really make sense. Jaina's 9 feet tall. Yeah. I really don't like the way Jaina looks in the game, by the way. I think she looks really weird and cartoonish in a bad way. Yeah, I don't know. I don't like the way her face looks. And, it's bad. Where's Tyrande? See, in my opinion, if we're going to go down the route of... You see, for a while, I entertained the idea that Anduin was Arthas' son. And I thought, like, okay, it's like, you know, the old fucking... well, it's It's like they're both blonde, right? And like, you know, Variant, why? Because I thought it could he is. The reason why I thought this could happen is because, I mean, Varian was gone for a long time. He was gone for a while. And they could have easily just said that this is what happened, right? He looks, let's be honest, like, Anduin looks a lot more like Arthas than he does Varian. Am I wrong? His wife died before, yeah. So I entertained the idea that they might try to do this, but at this point I don't think that's just not going to happen, right? Like for a while I thought maybe they might try to do this, but now you're right. It is definitely a question mark theory. I think probably we'll see Arthas in terms of purifying Anduin. I think that's what would even make sense to a degree. But I don't really, I worry about doing that. They might still retcon it. Why are you just Varian so much? No, I think Varian's great. I like Varian a lot. Varian beat Garrosh in a duel. Okay? So like, Garrosh is fucking badass. Whenever Varian was Logosh, whenever he was like, he had a fucking like it was like an alter ego where he was a gladiator. So yeah, fake news. Sorry, bro. Like that's what happens. That's the way it goes. All right, I'm gonna pull up the Wowhead stuff, and we're gonna make sure we get the rest of this, so I can just make sure I get everything out for the video. Okay, so acquire tier sets. Okay, give me 1 second. Let me just go ahead and turn the sound effects and everything back on too. There we go. Arthas' soul is inside Kingsmorn Blade. Why would it be inside of Kingsmorn? Oh, because he has the shards of Frostmourne. Okay. Yeah, yeah, that makes sense. Patch 9.2 will continue to update. John Haidt, their company-wide update. Parts of the game outdated and inconsistent with their values. Teamwork at the expense of others is never special. It's special to a small group. I think that, like... I think that it's very obvious if you want to get rid of things that are... like, just generally, like, really bad. But, like, something like a big love rocket is not at the expense of other people. And I think that's kind of, like, I get what you're saying, right? Annie? Yo, what up, Annie? So... Win a while content? Thank you, man. Appreciate it. Thank you very much. So, let's see here. Oh, what the... Oh, what? Okay. I didn't see that at all. I thought like she was in chat or something like that. No, they're just auto playing a video. That's smart. Okay, so anyway. Buff, another point, we are in left times, there's a lot of things in the game. Do you follow this course of green patches? Penny carries Maximated of Northshire, which is to me an obvious parody. It's a completely other thing. Running stress, we have a game 17 years on people's PCs, built communities, even on Facebook. It was around the ideals of vernacular people used back in the time, very different than today. I think that an operating live service, you know, in a universe that will go on for many years beyond us, we have to open the idea that we will change content to better match to reflect the ideals of our community. We want the community to be where everyone, regardless of gender, ethnicity, can come together and play and enjoy each other and understand each other's perspective. Like, I think that one question, like if I had to ask them one question about this, is that do you think that Final Fantasy is telling jokes at the expense of other people and is hurting people with its storytelling? Because Final Fantasy does this and nobody ever thinks that. You see what I'm saying? So like, there's clearly more nuance to it than that. Do you see kind of what I'm saying? And this is what I would ask. Good point. Yeah, it's like there are plenty of other stories that have sexual references that are not abusive. And that would be the biggest question that I would have for them. Puff puff pass on, bro? What? Am I missing something? It's a side quest in Final Fantasy. Oh, okay. Okay, yeah. And like you have all kinds of other like sexual references and things like this in Final Fantasy. So like I would ask the Blizzard developers, because I'm sure a lot of them have played Final Fantasy and they're at least probably familiar with it, because I mean they should be, right? Because it's a big competitor of theirs and they should know what their competitors are doing. Do you think that Final Fantasy tells stories and tells jokes at the expense of other people? Because that's one thing I'm really curious about. Because I think that there's clearly a big difference between telling a joke, a sexual joke, and telling a sexist joke. You know, I don't know. I find that the entire pursuit that Blizzard has with these updating these references, etc., and doing all of this stuff, I think this is just so out of touch that I can't even begin to understand what their mindset is. I genuinely do not understand it. Because how is it that you remove damsels in distress and you change it to city dwellers? Especially whenever the character itself is a parody. It's a parody on a parody of Don Quixote, which is a parody. That's why he's jousting windmills. And it's clearly that it is a parody of Don Quixote, because one of the rewards you get from completing the quest line is a buildable windmill. So I feel like these are changes that are made by people who are illiterate in culture, basically. These are people who are culturally illiterate, and they're correcting mistakes that aren't there. I don't, again, this is all just like, as I said, these are all just like the color of, these are the color of the sprinkles on a cupcake. Brown sprinkles make me less likely, make the cupcake look worse, but it doesn't really change the way it tastes. Assuming that the brown is only food coloring. So I don't really care a lot about this. I think it's stupid. I think that we'll see more stupid things like this in the game. I think that you'll see more of these developers with very strong worldviews in the real world try to use the game as a vehicle to promote those worldviews. I think it's off-putting to most players. I think that most people don't want to be patronized by a person who makes video games for a living. I think a lot of people consider it insulting. So that's pretty much it. 100% agree. I really hate it being in my games. Yeah. So this is probably what's going to happen. They removed a fart joke. Yeah, exactly. Like, this is... these are people who are culturally and socially illiterate, and I would like to see how these people... I would want to see... I would pay a lot of money, and by a lot of money I mean probably $5, to watch this person live stream for a month and see the kind of things that they talk about and how they interact with just people in the stream and how they talk to people. Because in my opinion, I think they don't really know how to interact with people. They don't know how to, like, for example, like, this is like kind of what I said before, where it's like you have guys that, like, you've had this example, right? Where like there are men or guys that they will act creepy towards a woman, and then they'll get called out for it, and they'll say, oh, well, I guess I just can't talk to women. No, bro, like, just don't fucking sniff their chair when they get up. It's not hard. So I think that a lot of this is people that lack any sort of social nuance. And they have really no sort of social understanding. And these are changes that are driven by people that are, like, socially maladjusted. We're not allowed to do anything nowadays? No, yeah, you are. It's fine. Like, just go out and act like a normal person and you'll be fine. Like, I act like a normal person all the time whenever I go out. I make jokes that are sometimes, you know, a little sexist joke, little joke, and it's fine, right? And people make jokes about me too. Right? It's okay. It's not a big deal. It comes from a place of trust. I think that you can do a little bit of edgy stuff if people know that you're not a piece of shit. It's like, I'm not gonna watch this on stream, but you can go over and look at the George Carlin bit about that. We do a little bit of trolling, and it's fine, because everybody knows it's good-natured. Nothing wrong with that. So yeah, what's this here, chat? Charles weak, not judge anyone, not being offended, something. There's not someone who is offended. They want to make place comfortable they can for everybody. It's been told you got bullied in school. Criticizing it is worse than changing it. I really disagree with that, because at a certain point, and I want to create an argument that will hopefully make you understand my perspective. So I think a really good example of this is actually alcohol. So a lot of people, how many of you guys have had a relative or a friend or maybe a spouse who, whenever alcohol was introduced into their life, it made their life, and by extension your life, worse? You ever been around an alcoholic or something like that or whatever? Yeah, me, a lot of you guys. I'm lucky enough to where the worst I've had is I've had a friend of mine who I grew up with, Lowell, had a lot of fucking problems, right? But like, I didn't really have to deal with that a lot myself personally, except for, I don't know, I think he stole like $100 from me once. Remember, we were like 18, but I don't even remember. It might not have even happened. Either way, it's like, what I'm saying is that you can easily make an argument. He's been one of my best friends. Like, I'm sure he would admit it nowadays if he did. Either way, the point is that you can easily make the argument that if somebody is offended and somebody is not comfortable, then something should change because this person is offended or not comfortable. In a game that is based around racism and violence, that has gratuitous alcohol to the point where there's a celebration of alcohol, that has multiple holidays that mirror the real life holidays that are celebrations of religion, which for some people that religion has ruined their lives or the lives of their relatives. I think that you have to be able to objectively measure whether something is reasonable or not reasonable by being able to just think about it rationally and with some degree of common sense. So I completely disagree with the idea that because something like that is offensive, then it should not be in the game. Because if you begin that, where does this end? Does this end with alcohol? Does it end with violence? Does it end with showing women in scantily clad clothing because there are certain women who feel like that makes them uncomfortable or insecure, or they believe that's objectification? You can have anything. It's an endless path. So that's why I disagree with it, and that's why I think that it is never ending. It is reductive and it is never ending. So, yeah, it's in a way, it's the same logic that Republicans used in the 90s to get rid of violent video games because of things like Columbine. It's ridiculous to even draw the conclusion, and it's insulting that it would even occur. Jack Thompson, yeah, remember him? You can't even please everyone. No, and I don't think you should try to please people that are unreasonable. And I think alcohol is probably the best example that I can use of something that makes a lot of people uncomfortable because of personal experiences that they've had that were very bad, and we're not going to remove alcohol from the game. And so I think there has to be a certain degree of objective reality and common sense attached to people's offense that's taken by something and their sensitivities. Being sensitive to something is not always somebody else's responsibility. So anyway, I've talked about this a lot. Let's go ahead and look at the other stuff, okay?
Makes you strong.
New mounts and pets. I mean, all of these are cool. I really like this one. I think this one's really cool. Yeah, all of these mounts are not. I think I might like this one the most, actually. Yeah, this is cool. The snail is cool too. New pets as well. Great. Happy to see it. Let's see, game rants. Where will the story go next? See if there's anything interesting. Just gonna scroll down, read all this. Okay. So this is a little bit more background on the story. Sylvanas, Anduin, Zovaal, and the Jailer are three major characters in the Shadowlands story. It's impossible to talk about the story of Shadowlands without them. Triad was core to the story that we're telling. Story of Shadowlands first saw Anduin being captured by Sylvanas. Anduin replaced Sylvanas as the Jailer's hand, and now accompanies him as he plunges into Zereth Mortis to claim the secrets of the First Ones and rewrite existence. Anduin is in quite the predicament, and dealing with him will only be a way the players can hope to confront the Jailer, all according to Day. I'm assuming Morgan Day, yeah, okay. After all, unless his domination magic can be countered, Zovaal could do the same against anyone who stands in his way. Well, not really, because he needs to make the sword to do it, right? I mean, that's why he had the Primus enslaved, and the Primus isn't enslaved anymore, so I don't know about that. Okay, let's see here. Sylvanas and Uther. Sylvanas is in a predicament of her own. Now that she is in the custody of the heroes, she'll need to be grilled for information. As she was the Jailer's right hand until recently, she knows much of his schemes, and getting that information may be the only way to stop him. Well, she doesn't know anything about his schemes, because if she knew what his schemes were, then she wouldn't have told him to stop or anything like that whenever he was about to go to the Sepulchre of the First Ones, because that was his goal to begin with. It doesn't even make sense. It seems like she had no idea what she was getting into. Uther sees common ground with Sylvanas. They both had part of their soul removed by Arthas and are having to deal with the aftermath of that. Denuzer hinted at an unexpected character's role. When players last saw her, Sylvanas' had portion of her soul return to her body after it was shattered during her death at Arthas' hand. A fate shares similarities with Uther, the Lightbringer's fate in Shadowlands. Because of this shared history, Denuzer said the Paladin turned Kyrian may prove integral to the story of Eternity's End. In fact, Uther can serve as something as a guide for her through that process. He had no one to help guide him. But Uther understands what it is like to go through something like that, and you'll see how maybe he can help guide Sylvanas through those treacherous waters. Well, I think that's really weird. Yeah, I really don't like that. Why? I'll explain why. So, I think that the first... I think Shadowlands Afterlife's Bastion is the best cinematic that Blizzard has probably ever made. I really think this. I think it is the best one they have ever made. And I'll explain why I think it's good.
Tactical choice.
So I think it's good because it sets up, obviously, Uther as a character. it creates the whole story behind Jaina's cinematic. No, this is way better, and I'll explain why. The main reason why I think this is so good is that it creates the dissonance between the purpose of the Shadowlands and the way that it extinguishes humanity by requiring you to relinquish your memories. And I think Devos was such a great character because she personified why that was not necessarily a good thing. That was really, really well done. And Devos did help Uther. That was the entire point of this whole thing. And then her seeing that there was a blade, like, this is a big deal, right? Like, whenever you really put this into context, this is a millennia long, like, this is an eternity of a universe that exists as basically a machine, and she's putting a wrench in that machine by helping Uther and not wanting him to relinquish his memories, and actually going against what the purpose is, which is effectively, like, there's a clear parallel here between her rebelling against this and people rebelling against religious imperialism in the real world. And I think that the fact that it makes sense that Uther would want to get rid of Arthas, right? Would want to throw him into the maw. And I think the fact that Uther was able to, this story was able to make Arthas the Lich King, somebody who was a murderer of millions of people, a terrible person, to turn him into a victim in this story. And not a victim, if you look at his face, right? This is not the face of a, this is not the face of a completely resolute man. This is the face of somebody who is halfway fucking crazy. He's out of his fucking mind. He's stressed out. And that's why I think it was so good, is it told that entire story in just 6 minutes. Do you understand? He's stressed out, yeah, exactly. So that's why I think it was the best cinematic they've ever done. But Vengeance is bad. It wasn't just Vengeance, though. And that's the thing, the Vengeance is bad, but relinquishing your memories is also bad. And it creates a gray area in something that was a universal truth. You understand why that's such a big deal? Like, we see this, right?
Keep up the momentum.
It was justice, yeah, exactly. And then she goes to Calathistra, right, the Archon, and she explains it, and they don't want to hear about it. It's so good. In my opinion, it is one of the best cinematic. It is the best in terms of like these picture, like comic book cinematics. It is the best one by a mile. But there's nothing else that even comes remotely close to it in terms of the storytelling. Anyway, let's go back. We can watch it another time, right? But you can play it on your own. But anyway, Jaina's was good. Yeah, Jaina's was really good too. But I think the reason why people like the Jaina one is just because of the music. Which is nice, right? But that does not necessarily mean that the storytelling inside of it was good. When a ferryman is to remove the memories, not take vengeance out and other things. Yeah, exactly. But there's exploring the malevolence behind that is really interesting. And they actually have a really good, there are like very small, there are like these really, really tiny nuggets of great storytelling in Shadowlands. And I'll give a small example of this. Like in Maldraxxus, it's somewhere like around in here, you find like a Kyrian body who was unwilling to give up her memories, and she traveled to Maldraxxus to be with the person that she loved, and they died there together. That's so good. Like, that's fucking beautiful. And that's the kind of stories that I thought Shadowlands could really tell. That's very, very well done. Dying in the afterlife. Yeah, well, you turn into anima. Lord Melgrain has 6 words. Yeah, somebody said Lord Melgrain. Yeah, I think, in my opinion, I think that they really missed out on making Draka the main character of the Maldraxxus storyline. I think Alexandros Melgrain is way cooler. He's the fucking Ashbringer. And also, like, having him wake up after fighting the Scourge, and now he's on the same side as them, and the fucking inner turmoil that would create is such a better story than Draka just rising up through the ranks. You see what I'm saying? It was such a it would have been such a better story. Like I said, barely involved in story-wise, yeah. Anyway, so I really, as I said, I really don't like the split soul mechanic. The plot device, I think it's very badly done. Sylvanas and Anduin. Anduin is a hero beloved by many players, but considering he is in the vice grip of the Jailer, players can only hope that he will be saved. On the other hand, Sylvanas has much to answer for after the events of Battle for Azeroth. Eternity's End will reveal if Anduin will be the same if he survives this ordeal, or what kind of punishment Sylvanas will receive for her sins. Why would Anduin be punished if he was being mind-controlled? It doesn't make any sense. Tyrande and Sylvanas. Tyrande Whisperwind was absent from the announcement trailer. Considering the events of Battle for Azeroth and Shadowlands, it's no surprise that Tyrande and Sylvanas were on a collision course, as Denuzer called it. He confirmed that the High Priestess of Lune will appear in Eternity's End and will come face to face with a very different Sylvanas than she battled in the opening scenario. I would say these two figures have a lot to. I don't know if resolve is the right word, because you never resolve something that happens on the scale of an entire civilization and nearly wiped out. There has to be some very heavy interaction between those characters, and that's pivotal to the final conclusion of how Eternity's End and the Shadowlands saga wraps up. Tyrande just executes her on sight. I said that they should just make her the Lich King, that's it. Tyrande should... Tyrande, I think that the best storyline is Tyrande understands Sylvanas and agrees to not kill her instead of just making her the Lich King, right? I think that's the... Because it's like, Tyrande should not forgive Sylvanas. No, that's ridiculous. What happens to Bolvar? I don't know. Who cares? Crown of Destruction is broken. Let's make another one. So, I mean, they make another one. It's not that hard. I mean, they made another shadow. They made another fucking Mournblade. I mean, that took fucking 3 seconds. Why forgive Anduin and not Sylvanas? Because in the story, it's very clear that Anduin is being mind-controlled, whereas Sylvanas is being misled. So Sylvanas is doing bad things in her own will for a misguided reason, whereas Anduin is doing bad things against his own will. Yeah, he's not acting in his own will. Like, Sylvanas is doing something on her own. Yeah, she had a choice. Anduin doesn't have a choice. The good half is not at fault either. Well, that's what I said before about the whole split soul plot device being badly... I think it's very unfulfilling for... it's very unfulfilling for an audience to have this plot device that just absolves a person from any wrongdoing.
this.
Yeah, it's a plot device that effectively absolves them from mistakes. It's a cop-out. It's just ridiculous. No new renown levels, thank God. Cypher, the first one's to replace it. Okay, so we're just gonna do that instead. Sylvanas and Sepulchre are the first ones, possible teaser.
I like where you're going with this.
That does look a lot like Sylvanas, and yeah,
Who are you calling short?
that could probably, yeah, and she's got the same stuff on her arms, you know? See that? I think the stuff with her arms, it's like, yeah, it's obviously Sylvanas. Okay. Double legendary restrictions, Covenant legendary +1. Torghast no longer, so you'll be able to do 2 legendaries, that's good. Solo queue, oh, they're adding solo queue finally, that's good. See, this is actually a really smart thing. This is really smart for Blizzard to have done. And this is what I said that they should do, right? Is that they should add in solo queue to a certain degree as a brawl to just see what happens.
Got this. You're way ahead.
It's just a brawl. You know what else was just a brawl? Seething Shore. And now it's an actual battleground in the game that you can queue for at any time. So they're clearly using the brawl system as a testing grounds for new content. It's basically like a PTR that you pay for. Equip 2 legendaries at a time. Okay, great. Sepulchre, the first one's raid is time gated. Face 8 bosses, including Anduin, in the first week. Okay. I don't think it's that big of a deal. They did this for ICC, and it wasn't that bad.
Bumps now and then.
I really don't think it's that big of a deal. Like a 2-week thing. Yeah, it's not.
That'll do some damage.
I think that dragging some content out is not necessarily the worst thing. I need to take a piss. I'll be right back, guys. Almost all developers
Go ahead and
and store, like Final Fantasy does the same thing. It's like whenever Endwalker comes out, Pandemonium doesn't release the same day.
Keep up the momentum, friend. Sorry about that. Okay, so is the end of the final major story patch in Shadowlands. I really hope that they don't only have 3 raids. I would like to see a 9.3. Like I'm so much hoping that they're gonna have wash hands. I never wash my hands. I should wash my dick for having it touch my hands. Yeah, I mean, come on. They confirmed 9.2 is it? No, they confirmed that 9.2 is the end of the story. Does not necessarily mean that there won't be a 9.3. That's only 30% copium. Okay. Yeah, it's only 30%. Anyway, let's. I really, the reason why is I really think the story is great, but it's just it has a lot of potential. It's not great, but it has a lot of potential. I think it's just being told in such a stupid way. Anyway, maybe the final raid tier of Shadowlands, cool tier sets, development update. I mean, all this stuff seems nice. An Algalon like being called the Consular. I thought Consulars are just a what doesn't matter. Interview with Game Rant. Let's see here. There's also an answer to the final season of Shadowlands, which many were curious about. Shadowlands was planned as a total of 3 chapters before the pandemic. 9.2 is the last chapter. In addition, it said that there was no artificially reduced or art-adjusted content to match the next expansion pack cycle. Is that the last patch of Shadowlands remains unanswered. Basically, I'm excited to see the threads coming together throughout Warcraft history. I hope the conclusion will be satisfying. Things don't simply end after defeating a raid boss. There's a campaign, a story with the raid, and an epilogue after the raid. There's some pretty epic conclusions waiting for you. Which way you engage with the story. Yeah. They should have, like... Algalon is a consular? Oh, not a consul? Okay. Okay, thank you. I didn't know that. Thank God I can fucking pay money to not have to level my characters now. Holy shit, I've been waiting for this. They need to just bring this out at the beginning of the expansion. Like, please, from now on, just bring this out at the beginning of the expansion. Like, I hate leveling. I don't want to do it. Like, let me just fucking give you $60 and let's call it a day, okay? Like, how many characters do we have to boost for this? Oh, God. Oh, let me go buy my vault, too. Let's see. So, what else do we really need to talk about with the 9.2? I guess I'll kind of give... I'll give general thoughts. Tier sets? Oh, yeah. Let's look at tier sets. Progenitor tier sets.
Keep up the momentum, friend.
One of our goals with the Sepulchre, introduce tier sets. Make it more satisfying for players by giving them more agency in acquiring their tier sets and Chains of Domination. Many players told us that I couldn't get the shards or the bonuses they want even after months of raiding. Well, you could have fixed that by just adding a fucking vendor, man. Like, you don't, like, why? Just add in a fucking vendor, man. Like, why is this even a thing? Check Max on Twitter. What do you say? Oh, bro, I totally agree. Oh, I totally fucking agree. Would be really cool if the last 3 bosses were not tested as well if they're releasing with Mythic. Makes progress more fun, more surprise with the story. Oh, man, I remember whenever they weren't going to test, like, end bosses, and then they started to do that. For the first time, it's killed, then unlocks a dungeon journal entry for it. Yeah, like, that would be really cool. That would be fucking awesome, man. I don't think that's gonna happen, but I completely agree with Max. Imagine a bug fest. I would rather have a bug fest than know what's gonna happen. And I would rather just have it work. But I would. Final Fantasy changed them? No, I've always felt this way. In my opinion, I've said this before, I wish we didn't even know. I think that the way Final Fantasy handles expansion releases is the way that I wish WoW would handle expansion releases.
You don't know shit about what's going on. You don't know anything. You have no idea. And you don't really know what the world's going to be like. You don't know what the story is going to be. You don't know how the bosses are going to play. It's all a mystery. No, I love that. I need to make sure I do my 15s. Let's see what... Oh, wait. Arms. Okay. Hopefully I get the sword. Am I going to get the sword in the vault? Okay, great. It's transmog at least. It's good enough. I'll take a transmog axe. Sounds good to me. Okay. That sucks, but who cares? At least I get a transmog item. Anyway, so yeah, progenitor tier sets. Tier sets will be obtainable in PvP and Mythic Plus as well. Huh. That's really interesting. You can obtain tier sets from there. Read the blue? Oh, yeah, okay, sorry, I didn't read that. However, we're making some major changes. Sometime after Eternity's End's releases, you'll unlock a Forge of Creation system and earn a new currency. The currency, along with an item from PvP or dungeons, can be transformed into a tier set piece. This is supposed to work like bad luck protection, or again, people wanting to make new characters as a catch-up method if you start in late. More systems. I actually think this is an example of... This is an example of a lot of the people, because I know a lot of people that are saying that are probably like Final Fantasy fans. You understand this is the exact same as the totem system that you have in Final Fantasy, right? Like, it basically is. It's pretty close. A few more steps, yes. I do not necessarily think that this is... It's not a fundamentally bad thing. We'll wait to see what it is. Elaborate. So the idea is that every single time that you kill a boss in Final Fantasy, like let's say you kill Alexander, bosses in Alexander, or you kill like an extreme. They have these for extremes for sure. You get a totem, and then you can sell those. So like you do the Odin Fate, and you get a certain amount of items, and your totems, you can redeem them at the vendor, and you can buy the items that could drop from Odin. So, and this is a system that is liked by people in Final Fantasy, and this is effectively what they are doing. This system is effectively Valor points from Wrath of the Lich King. You remember whenever you would get Valor points and then you could buy at the vendor in ICC, you could buy the tier sets at 251? Yeah, pretty much. You mean the other Odin? Yeah, the Fate Odin. So many years ago. Yeah, exactly. Emblems of Frost. Yes, actually, you're right. It was not necessarily Valor points, you're right. It was technically Emblems of Frost. So, this is part of the full interview. Yeah. Okay, let me look at this here. We might normally have patched this in much later in the game, but we wanted to introduce these systems earlier to give players a clearer roadmap. This is a sentence that I've been waiting to hear for 5 years. Thank you. I think that why would you have normally patched it in later? Ask yourself that question. And then that question, the answer to that question, will be the answer to why a lot of people are frustrated with the game. We're looking forward to getting feedback from players on the system, since it's a much different way to get tier sets this time around. The set bonuses themselves will be similar to the ones in the past, featuring fun and unique benefits for certain playstyles, with the bonuses swapping if you decide to change. We decided to explore a little to get rotations to become a little bit more fresh and unique. Great. Good. Nice. All right. Pretty much says the same thing about the line. Yeah. I mean, like, anybody who's played the game for fucking 10 years would say the same thing. Problem is they come up with the systems, the players beg for it, the next expansions, it's gone again. People have to beg for them again. Well, this is what I said before, right? Like, my faith in WoW will not be restored until next expansion. If ever. You see what I'm saying? Like, because that's what's really going... This is what I said before, right? Is that 9.1.5 is giving all the players what the stuff that they want. Great. Okay. But does this mean that you can actually react and make changes as things occur while they're being released and while they're being tested? Because that's always been the problem. Let's see here. Have you seen solo queue PvP announcement? I have. Copy and next expansions. I didn't say that it's going to save WoW. I said that it is a point where I will either have faith in WoW or not. You see kind of what I'm saying? You see the difference there? Yeah. And the thing is, like, if you have no faith, great, I don't blame you. I don't blame you. But let's see what they can do. And if it's good, great, we have a new game to play. If it's not, who gives a fuck? We're gonna play the Riot MMO, we're gonna play Final Fantasy, we're gonna play New World whenever they can get their shit together, we're gonna play Lost Ark, we've got a million other games, so we gotta play Elden Ring. Who gives a fuck, man? Who cares? Like, I'm not gonna fucking sit here and cry about it every fucking day. If it sucks, I'm just gonna play the other game. I'll complain about it when I hear about it or whenever it brings it up. But really, I mean, that's what it comes down to. Like, I don't need to sit around and get pissed off about this shit all the time. Second, I'm talking to Cody. Okay, let's see here. It's healthy mindset. Yeah, broke the cycle. Well, it's not about breaking the cycle. Like, I've always done this. Like, whenever WoW was boring at the end of Cataclysm, I went and I played Diablo 3. Whenever WoW was boring at the end of Mists of Pandaria, I went and I played Reaper of Souls. Whenever WoW was boring in Warlords of Draenor, I went and I played PUBG. Whenever WoW was boring in Legion, I went and I played Apex Legends. You see what I'm saying? Like, I've always done this, and like I've done PoE as well. Oh, Jibu's messaging me. Oh man. Yeah.